And thanks for joining us, everyone. My name's Zach Allison with ATS. I'm the National Accounts Manager here covering engineering firms all across Canada and even parts of the US. So if you are one of those joining us from BC, Manitoba, Alberta, all across the East Coast, and some of those firms do operate across both borders as well. So thanks for jumping on. This is our ATS University session, which is a pretty much bi-weekly product session where we go and do a deep dive of products that are available on the ATS Spec Tool. If this is your first time attending, or if you're unfamiliar with the ATS Spec Tool, essentially it's a product configuration system that allows you not to just get the base models of any manufacturer's product, but truly the configured version, selecting like your line size, your options, any of the additional products that may fit together in a chain of products. So for example, as we're going through this today, you'll see leak defense. It's not just a singular product. It comes together as part of a system. And at the end of the session, I'll show you how you could find that and configure it on the ATS Spec Tool. The benefits of the Spec Tool is that at the end, you don't just get the generic model, you get a configured selection available to download in any of our, I think, 8 different spec formats. Long, short, CSI, submittals, Revit, everything you possibly need to get this product from online into your actual projects, into your spec. So that's the goal of what we do. And we also have the goal of making sure everyone understands those options as they go through finding these products. So that's why we do all this education. And on top of that, we like to provide CPD hours and credits to our long-standing engineers that support us. So thank you for jumping on. We'll be sure to send out the CEU credits and your CPD certificates for any self-reporting you might have. That typically gets sent out on Friday. As per all of our other sessions, this is going to be recorded and it'll be available on the webinar recording section in our ATS University part of our Spec Tool website. I'll show you how you can find that link later. Very simple and easy to get to. And of course, if you have questions along the way, please feel free to pop them into the chat or use the Q&A feature. I'll raise them up to Keith as we go so that we can kind of organically blend them into the conversation. With all that being said, I'll introduce our topic today. We are going to be covering commercial leak defense systems with our partner who's been here a few times now, Keith Zander. Thanks for joining us again.
Very welcome. So yeah, Keith Zander here with Sentinel. Been working. So Sentinel, there's a lot of confusion. My shirt actually says Leak Defense, a Watts brand. Sentinel is the name of the company. Leak Defense is basically the Cadillac of the GMC line. So that's where I've been 6 years. Before that, I was had a stint in solar power generation, emergency power generation. Before that, Emerson Electric through Liebert Corporation. Did that, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, specifying data center, HVAC, electrical, surge suppression, lightning protection, things like that, power distribution. So I got a pretty wide range of what the capabilities and the projects that are working from simple to complex. So we're going to run right into it right here. And let's see if I can get my slide to go forward, which it's not going forward. So this is not good. I was going, there we go. Okay, so I'll run over this. Course approved for ASPE CEU credits, 0.1. Not approved for PDHs or PEs. CDS certified plumbing. Can use this towards certification. There's your links right there. The course may or may not be accepted for PE renewal. Individuals must inquire within their state to determine if this is eligible for PE renewal or PDS credits. It's like one of those advertisers to try to talk as fast as you can. At the end of this course, you'll be able to understand what the driving factors in leak detection for multifamily and commercial structures are. Leak protection based on different piping systems. That's one of the big keys there. And then you've got whole building protection versus zones. Areas, selected fixture, high value protection. So if you want to do, portions or the whole building. Inside the pipe versus outside the pipe, what's the difference there? And then evaluate the potential ROI for leak detection systems, because what you folks here on the call want to do is you actually want to make more money. To make more money, bigger the project, more money the project, you get a bigger percentage. So I'll give you the reasons to pitch that to your architect, engineers, developers, end users. And what this course is not about, it's not about locating leaks. So we're not going to be talking about this in this respect. What we are going to be talking about is wide leak protection. So you may have seen this slide, modified it a little bit. You guys are required by law and by just general practice, consulting experts, what you do, to provide water backflow, provide smoke detector, fire suppression, provide electrical circuit breaker protection, because everyone has realized that people die if you don't do this. What I'm contending is leak detection is similar in those lines. Water and electricity don't mix. Shock and death are not a good thing. The attorneys like to get involved with all these issues, but it's a slip and fall issue. It's a health and safety risk. It's a mold and mildew issue. It's a human health risk. So this could be your primary consideration from an argument standpoint to design this in every one of your applications. If the owner, architect, developer, end user decides to VE it out of the project, two things occur, which are good things. Number one, you've considered the piping arrangements that makes it easy to specify this into your projects. And if they come back, which they will, don't become the same customer or not, but if they do, when they do come back, either 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, you pull out your plans out of your suitcase, you change the dates on it, you charge them the money, you've already done 95% of the work. So this is a safety and legal risk issue to protect the humans that are in these facilities. And that, I would say, is conducive and similar to the other mandated requirements out there. One of the kind of rhetorical questions I want to ask here, if you guys want to throw it in the chat there, how often are you designing comprehensive water leak protection into your projects today? My estimation is less than 10% of the time. If I had a zero on there, it might be a lot of zeros in there, but I might be surprised. Maybe a few of you who design it in majority of projects. Obviously, if you're doing data centers, you're typically going to put that on all those projects. If you're doing mega data centers, et cetera, it's kind of a required system when you put a lot of water in with the data centers. We did that pretty much 100% of the time when I was in that line of business. Now, here's 10 more reasons to try to convince your customer that every building needs this. Every building will eventually have leaks. One of the studies, in fact, I got a white paper, Zach, remind me at the end of this, I got a white paper that documents all the sources for a lot of these contentions that I'm making here. But the stats are 50% of every building in America or North America has ongoing leaks today. Now you can define what those look like, whether it's toilet flappers, whether it's flushometers, whether it's behind the wall type of leaks. Every building will eventually have leaks. So why not design that into the system initially? Designing for the piping system for leak protection will save you money in the long run when they want this system. So the piping design is really the key point here. To make it cost effective to do leak detection. I'll get in more of that later on. Water is the number one cause of property damage. People say, well, how big is it? It's about $10 billion a year in North America, residential only. It does not include commercial. So you add commercial onto that, it's going to be rising up. 75% of all claims are water or related to water from a leak standpoint. So it's combined. Water claims are more than fire and theft combined. Now that's with the exception of the California fires. I think we're gonna have about a 30 billion worth of property claim here in 2025. But in the years that we don't have a lot of these big extravagant fires, water is the most significant claim out there. Average commercial claim is about $100,000. I'll break that down a little bit. Average residential claim about $12,000. So here's the thing. If you can at least put an initial simple leak detection system in there, it's going to be less than $100,000 for the simple initial one. And then you can start aggregating that throughout the building. It's going to be more expensive depending on how much you want to protect. But essentially, the moral of the story is if you have one claim on a commercial building, it pays for itself on that one claim. So if it happens in 6 months, it's a 6-month payback. If it happens in 18 months, 18, that sort of thing. And then mold can add about 10 times the claim. We start getting the residential, or excuse me, the legal issues of it. You get mold behind the walls, places that people don't see, closets, things like that, carpets. So the water leaks, the roof leaks, or the pipes leak, it gets down to the carpet, starts mold, and then you start having health issues inside the company, the tenants that are occupying the space. I won't go through the other ones. You can read that. You'll get this a copy of this throughout. So for the sake of time, I'm going to zoom through a couple of these things here. Real estate claims by the numbers, 57% of all claims are water related, and then 71% of the dollar payouts are water leak related. So again, you can use these slides to compel your customer that this is important, this needs to be put in. And of course, you know, one of the biggest reasons behind this is clearly everyone is trying to get, you know, lowest cost production out there. And so with lower cost production, you know, you get some of the horror stories where they get, you know, piping that's substandard. You get whatever, some newer helpers, some not as extensive experience from the installers. So even a lot of the new construction stuff, you'll see problems with that, and that's the reason for this. This slide here is really just to show you that 78% of all the water that's purchased by that meter, that flows to that meter, is used inside the building. Obviously, it's going to depend on the geographical area where you're at. 22% is for outside landscaping, and then you got a, you know, percentage that's used for heating, cooling, those type of things. And so, really, the question here is this a sustainable thing in a data center application where you are using 300,000 to? And I read this article a couple months ago. You can find it there by this gentleman that wrote the article. You know, up to 4, and some of you guys have probably done some of these mega centers where up to 4 million gallons of water is used a day. You either got to be up near the Great Lakes or somewhere where you've got quite a bit of hydro or a lot of water available there. So a lot of the geographical areas, depending on what type of obviously HVAC system you put in, will depend on whether you can use the open source towers and those type of things. Most customers say, "Hey, I've got insurance. I don't need water protection. That's why I've got insurance." Well, it depends on who's saying that. You know, if it's a CFO saying that, well, it's a short-term argument, short-term type, you know, today argument. If he thinks he's not going to be there very long, fine, go ahead and do that. But you're rolling the dice by having no water leak protection. So, you know, essentially, and I'll get into this in a later slide, what those risks are and the piece of the puzzle. But the bottom line is if you don't do anything, then it's going to take you longer to discover that leak. And if no one's occupying that building, they're not going to discover the leak until they come in on Monday morning, or until they, so for instance, you know, Zach, you asked about the kind of the market. Churches, especially during COVID. I mean, a lot of the buildings during COVID were unoccupied, but churches were one of the biggest things where they were not allowing people to even go into the churches, had to do outside services, that type of thing. So a lot of these buildings they didn't go into for months and months. And then when they ended up going in there and finding they've had this leak going on for a long time and having to basically gut the whole thing and redo it. So the longer it takes to discover a leak, the higher the total cost to repair and the higher the added incidental cost that you have to deal with. So consulting engineers, specifying engineers, that's what your mission is. Identify the risk, call out the risk to the customer, mitigate the risk through proper design and product selection. And here again, if you rely upon humans to notice the leak and shut it off, you have a whole training issue that you have to deal with. A lot of the concierge and some of these are security guys down on the first floor of a 60-story building. They don't know where to shut the leak off. So if it's the middle of the night, you got water coming down the elevator shaft. Facility engineer is not there on site. He's home in bed. You know, with these type of applications, you can call the guy up. He can wake up out of bed and he can push the kill switch and shut the water off to the entire building until he has time to drive into the city or wherever his project is and identify, cut the water back on, see where the leaks is, see what the origin is of it, and then mitigate it from there. Disruption in business continuity. I mean, there's a price tag on that. Business continuity is real. If you've got locations in a building that you cannot do business in because whatever, the leaks have come down on the computer systems, come into the server closets, leak down through. You don't want to be, trouncing your people through those water damaged, water soaked areas. Legal risk of tenant health. We talked about that. Sick buildings, big issue. Water stewardship, sustainability, new laws with water abuse, that type of thing. So when you go to the left to the right, we've got $100,000 losses, something as simple as somebody left a window open, it froze inside there. A tenant moved out of the space, left a window open before he left. Nobody came into the space. Water pipe burst in just that area, and $100,000 cost. Outdated plumbing plans, a significant piece of the puzzle. They move pipes, cap off pipes, hide pipes. You don't know where they're at. $500,000 in damage from that root cause source of the problem. Old pipes, you try to get your pipes as kind of make them as long as possible. One of the things about leak detection systems on a retrofit scenario is if you have old pipes out there that are leaking, I'll just say sort of, every 30 days, 90 days, 120 days, install a leak defense system may be cheaper than repiping the whole building. All right, so it's another issue. It's another suggestion you can make to the customer. But of course, yeah, if you get leak pipes down into switch gear, you guys spend a lot of money on that switch gear, $500,000, $5 million on switch gear. You want to protect, you want to either not route your pipes over the switch gear, which is the smartest thing to do. Some guys, what I've seen them actually do is if there's pipes routed over it, they'll put dams around it. So the water comes down if it leaks and then it goes around that switch gear, at least doesn't go straight into the upper vent holes of the switch gear there. And then on the right-hand side, got a nice little $50 million loss right there, 3-inch line. Middle of the night, they had one maintenance man covering the whole facility. It's probably 1 million square foot of facility. Took 5 hours to locate, 5 hours to shut off, and 9-month project delay on the airport. So that's some fun stuff. So these are some of the applications that are the primary applications that we probably do get the most calls for, most applications for. And we'll go over some of the details on why those, the characteristics of those buildings, why it kind of makes sense there. So new buildings, you got a shakedown period, you got problems, you pressurize it. Maybe the pressure held initially, and then 6 months later, you get expansion, contraction, cold, hot. It loosens up on some of the press fittings, or they, just stuck the fitting on there. They went out to lunch. They didn't actually press it, but it held with the pressure test. High fixture to square foot ratio. So on that fourth column there to the right, pharmas, hospitals, medical buildings, schools, universities, salons, high fixture square foot to fixture to square foot ratio of the building. So any of these things, again, here, use these slides to convince your customer. It's not just a particular type of building. These are the issues, the main bullet points there on why that risk occurs. And this is what we've seen over the years. One of the biggest things is occupancy versus vacancy hours. So when you look and do the calculations on saw stat, 35% of all hotel rooms in the United States are vacant 100% of the time. So on average, that industry, it's only 70% vacant or occupancy rate throughout the 365 days. So that means that space is not either gone into because they've tagged it. There's nobody been in that room. So again, you can get problems there that are not found until that water starts leaking into adjacent areas. Religious services unoccupied 95% of the time. That's the biggest one here on the sheet. Schools unoccupied 84% of the time. So again, that's one of the biggest arguments that you want to use to your end user, your customer, saying, hey guys, you want somebody to be there, and that's a machine, that's a leak detection device, that's something that can facilitate the lack of personnel or lack of facility inspection people, lack of security people that's doing their routes throughout this building. And then office buildings, 78% of the time when you do the hours, the occupied versus unoccupied, that's what you find. Now, that's not the only thing. So on the right-hand side there, you got 24-hour medical facilities that are vacant 0% of the time. And on the right-hand side there, you see, I did a little snapshot from I think it was some kind of a news story that said emergency room flooding. Let's see, where was that? I think that was New Orleans, December 27th, 2024, so just a few months ago. And they had to route all their emergency room ambulances to a different hospital because of that leak. So you got people standing on the chairs there. I thought that was quite funny. And then warehouse manufacturing, here's the empty rates, apartment buildings, museums. You can kind of go through those later. Sources of water fixtures, you name the fixtures. I got 33 listed right here. There's probably about 50 or 100. It's probably not comprehensive, but bottom line is a lot of these locations, you need to pay attention to those locations and, either place sensors to where the usage of that water can be monitored and measured, or sensors on the floor, like the bottom right-hand corner right there. You see a floor sensor, you see cable and rope, you see it coming, kind of going around toward a drain. So if that drain gets backed up, which is, gosh, I think there's about 15 to 20% of the claims deal with drain issues, especially depending on the different types of geographical areas that you're in. New York City, I was at a multifamily space a couple of years ago. The guy said, all my leaks are the sewer coming back and back up into the drains here. It can't all drain when the water is flowing out. Rain's coming down, the water can't dissipate from the particular area there, the neighborhood. So this is a simple tier 5 leak protection system right here. So I show the piping diagram. Everything in the blue font that you see on this piping diagram are the parts and pieces of a leak detection system. So on the left-hand side there, you'll see the actuator, you see the ball valve, you'll see the flow sensor. All right. Of course, I put a spring check there. In some applications, if you either can monitor and detect forward flow, backward flow, basically it just makes sure that you're monitoring only forward flow only. And then so you got some type of controller, whether it's a Wi-Fi controller, whether it's a cloud type of interface or on-site. Most customers prefer something that they can walk up to it and touch it. They lose their credentials. They don't download the right app. They change their phone, just bought a new phone. So that takes them, there's a leak there. They can't figure out how to turn the valve off. It's nice to have something there. They can push a button, turn the valve off if they actually have leaks. And then so that's an inside the pipe leak detection. I call it a tier 5 because it's the best solution. I'll show you the pyramid in a second. Around the water heat.
I was to ask, actually, just as we're kind of going through this, the tier 5, is that kind of your highest end,
yes,
most complex? Or
yes, the base of the pyramid. Yeah, base of the pyramid. So number 1 is about 10% effective. The tier 5 is about 98% effective. Correct. Thank you. So on the right-hand side there, you have a device, some type of interface device that has relays on it that can interface to other BAS systems, BMS systems, or can automatically interface to like recirculation pumps, pressure pumps, things like that. So when that valve shuts off, first of all, you got IO on some of these other devices that say, hey, this is normal water flow. Ignore that water flow. So that's one application of the IO. Another application is it turns the valve off. You want to turn your circ pumps off. You want to turn your pressure pumps off, that type of thing. So the peripheral devices are just as important as the flow sensing device. So nice to have somebody that can do all these interfaces. Historically, people have done either just straight tactic A, which is an appliance only. Some regulations, some cities require that for washing machines, etc. Tactic P for outside the pipe. Again, I'll show you that percent ratio of success is low, and it depends on how many sensors you put in the building. So a lot of people say, well, I can just, meet the spec and meet this by putting all the floor sensors around. Well, quite honestly, if you put floor sensors around every place that you think the water will leak, what's Murphy's Law? Where you didn't put the floor sensor is where the water is going to leak. And tactic F is flow monitoring. So you get comprehensive, you measure the water going in to the entire building and provide a solution. I'm going to go over these real quick, really for the sake of time. Tactic P, here the issue if you want to apply that type of solution right there. What about the leaks above the ceilings, et cetera? Issues to consider, system management software. I won't go over each one of these. You can take this and look at this more when you get a project. Typically, like I tell my kids, you didn't want to learn about how to repair a car until you had a car, until your car broke down. And then it's like, Dad, can you teach me that course now? And I think a lot of that is with engineers as well. Due to the sake of time, it's like, I'm not going to get into it and I can look at it until you get a project to apply this. So water flow monitoring, a lot of different tactics out there. One of the things, let me go down to the bullet point number 4 or 5 down there, self-learning and AI. Can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, just like anything. It's how you apply it, how the algorithms are working. But most of the systems out there that have self-learning, they don't start working until you get about 1,500 events. So let's think about this. I've got a high-rise condo. I've got, rich people living in this high-rise right here. They got 5 other condos around the United States, around the world. And they're only in this condo maybe 2 weeks out of the year. You're never going to learn that condo. You're never going to learn the normal water usage of that condo. It's always going to be out. I've had some of these units on my competition wall that I test, and I sometimes put these on my own house and test. And it took one of these devices took 2 years to learn the system. So it was not working. It was not operating. It was not doing what it was designed to do until it reaches that self-learning phase. So could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. You just have to know how you're actually using it. Every flow meter has pros and cons. So every flow meter, whatever you spec, it's got how low can you measure? That's the big issue with pipes. You see that little picture right there of pinhole pipes? Do you have a system that can pick it up? On smaller pipes, it's easier. On larger pipes, it's very difficult. So, when you look at the Porchmister, it's about a half GPM. You look at toilet flappers, about 0.02 GPM. Pinhole leaks, about 0.002 GPM. So depending on what you're trying to find, you get PEC leaks on the corners. We've seen a lot of those projects there. We've seen contractors paying $3 million to change all the, bad, it had a bad, however PEX is made, a bad lot of them, and they put it in the entire high-rise complex in a certain location, had to go in and replace everything. So it's accuracy, it's flow rate, it's consistency, it's sample rate. How fast can you get that notification and send it off to your customer? All these issues are key points when you're designing systems out there for your customers. All right, so
just a quick second there, and maybe this actually walks through it, but the type P, your point of leak detector, versus your type F, the flow type. Are there particular applications where the point of leak, that's great, that's fine, versus a flow type? Is there any advantages to doing a POLD versus just the flow?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we see a lot of this on HVAC application where you typically have a secondary pan, and it's normally applied to that. So tier 1, it's going to notify you, it's going to scream. We got relay outputs. So, if I get triggers on that, then I can shut at least your modulating valve off or something on the HVAC. That's one way to do it. Or depending on how it's applied, you may just want to put a ball valve or something on there and shut it off if you don't have that. If the modulating is inside and don't have those electronic controls in there. So tier 1, this is kind of a generalized effectiveness based on insurance studies. And so what this one insurance company did, it's a proprietary study, but and a lot of these companies have gotten bought out. These insurance companies got bought out. So, but effectively what they've done is they've said, okay, if I've got point of leak sensors in there, it's only about 10 or 15% effective because I don't have a shutoff. So tier 2 adds that shutoff. Again, these are outside the pipe. Water's got to escape out the side of the pipe, underneath the sink, behind the refrigerator, around the water heater, that type of thing. And then if I automatically shut it off, it doubles the effectiveness, meaning the customer does not have to file a claim. The damage does not exceed the deductible of the policy. That's what they call a failure. So 85% of the time it fails on tier 1. About 70 to 75% of the time it fails on tier 2. And then tier 3, when you start getting into flow monitoring, it's about 10 to 40% effective, depending on where you apply this flow monitoring. This application here might be an emergency room in a hospital where you want notification, but you don't want to shut the water off if you're doing surgery, right? So you get notifications, somebody comes and shows up. Again, you have to do the automatic shut off. And a lot of these, systems they install in a tier 4 application where you get an alert only. And then if you go and inspect it, you just whatever, open your phone, go to the control panel, shut the water off. These are designed from whatever, 3/4 inch all the way up to 6, 8, 10 inch, whatever you want. So you get a 6, 8, 10 inch pipe running water out there. A lot of these guys are saying, hey, I want an alert only. I want the capability of shutting it off. Let's say at night, but I want it to not shut off during the day. Let me give you one application, construction sites. Construction sites are notorious. A lot of these construction companies that are filing claims with the insurance company, they will then tell you, you file one claim, every job going forward will have to have a protection device. When you start the job site up, you put your protective fences around it. You put your video cameras up for theft and vandalism. And they say, you're going to put a leak protection device in there to protect this building. Now, of course, they change the settings throughout the construction process. If I leak water on concrete, not a huge deal. Steel concrete, when I start putting my finishes in there, the flooring, the sheetrock, things like that, electrical switch gear, I'm going to want to set those settings tighter. So you drop down to the bottom there, you see this pyramid, hybrid detection, both inside and out. It can become about 98% effective. So nice solution there. So zoning, if you just want to put it on your main entrance to the building, you can do that. How effective is it going to be? Are you going to be able to locate where those leaks are at? Probably not, but it's just going to give you some type of, I'll just call it a kill switch, like a circuit breaker, where you can apply it. If you got a leak in the building, you're okay with shutting down the whole building in the middle of the night, something like that. It's significant. Shut the primary off, then you can manually go and isolate where that is down the line. So we see the applications in stacks and risers. So I want to, I got 10 or 15 stacks in the building. I just want to do one on the main, and I want to do it on all the stacks, right? And then so I can go stack by stack. If I know where that leak is, I can isolate that all the way to the branches off the risers. So bathrooms are big culprits, break rooms, big culprits, cafeterias, laundry rooms, that type of thing. And then, of course, one of the biggest issues are around the mechanical spaces. So putting that leak detection, around the equipment pads, around those buildings right there. At least you get notification and send that notification. And here again, if you want to put the automatic shutoffs on there or automatic equipment shutoffs, we got the relays to allow you to do that as well. So piping applications, really, when we're talking about whether it's residential, commercial, high rise, mid rise, whatever it is, single systems. So I've got a single system up top showing a tier 2. So it's a outside the pipe detection, and it's just shut off only. So you use that for hot water heater boilers. If that's all you want to protect, if you've got a, string of history, typically, if nobody died in this world, then nobody would buy death insurance or life insurance, whatever you're going to call it. If none of your facility managers have ever seen leaks in any of your water heaters or boilers, they're not going to want to protect it. But if they've had a catastrophic leak there, they go, yep, I know it can happen. So that's where I think my biggest risk is, because I've seen it happen. So you got some different applications here. On the bottom left right here, you see a tier 2 or tier 5. Right there, you can do flow or no flow. You can do, you want to be cognizant of your anti-scald capabilities. Oftentimes, we see like in condo buildings or apartment buildings where you get the mixing valves on your shower fixtures fail. And then so you'll get one condo next to the other one that's getting hot water in their cold line and cold water in their hot line. And, it's kind of a big deal. So this type of thing right here can show whether you've got that, almost identify that type of an application, again, with a hot cold type of a solution there. Let's see, let's go to the top right up here, tier 5, again, on your mains, your stacks, and then your branches. So however you want to do it, however complex you want to do it, whatever the customer can stomach and burden from a potential installation cost. So you see the various applications are really changing based on your piping applications, how many valves you've got, and what you're trying to protect there. This is we get a lot of this question. So what about hot water return? How do you monitor that? Continuous water flow. If your theory of operation is flow over time, then how do you deal with continuous water flow? So what you do is you do the combination, do the tier 5 on your main cold water line coming in, you monitor that flow, and on your hot water recirc line that cuts through that, tenant space or condo space, you isolate both ends of that. You put some type of floor protection on there. And then when your cold starts using more water and it exceeds the parameters on there, you just isolate that hot. You go in and inspect it, figure out where it's at. You can do the repairs, you isolate it there, and then your recirc lines are still applicable. I know everyone's got different designs on their hot water recirc lines. So this may or may not be the application that you utilized in your designs, but you can essentially see we've got flexibility on how we can design this stuff, and you just have to call it out on what you want to do. Some of the applications here, you see it in real world on the top left right there, it's a construction application. So of course, construction, they got whatever that is, a 10-inch line coming in, and then they close those valves off at the top during construction, and they run that 2-inch line on the bypass that detect leaks through the construction process before they turn it over to the end user. So with a 2-inch line, you can be more precise in your leak detection. Smaller the pipe, better leak protection, lower flows that you can detect. Again, during the day, it's an alert only application, typically is what most people set it up for. They don't want to be pouring concrete for 4, 6, 8 hours a day and have the thing automatically shut off on you. So you want at least a continuous water flow and alerted to that. If you know where the water's going, you don't shut it off. But again, if you know the water's escaping out of the pipe or whatever, then you can set up the controls to where, like on that water heater right there in that room, you got rope around that water heater right there. So if you have real water leaking out of that system, then you can override the timer on the controls and automatically shut it off. So you don't have to wait the 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever kind of setting that the customer decides to put it on there. Mechanical room, basic, you guys have seen all this stuff. Typical applications right there. If we go to the next slide there, tier 3 application, again, emergency rooms, that's what it looks like, piping, tee-offs, there's a point of demarcation of your domestic water line before it turns into a fire suppression line. Caveat, it's not FM approved yet for applications on fire lines, but typically your fire suppression lines are only designed for that paddle switch to go off when one sprinkler system blows down. So that one sprinkler head will be a 3 GPM to 5 GPM flow. And so when they do these tests on the paddle switches, that's what you've got to run is 3 to 5 GPM through this thing for that switch to blow off. That's the only type of leak protection you're going to get on that. Obviously, you go in here once a year and do your flow testing to make sure that switch works. But in this application here, we've had, course of construction again. We want to know if we've got a leak when we pressurize it. We want to go in, we want to put the first floor in, we want to pressurize it, second floor in, pressurize it. But this will give you better leak detection because we can detect very low flow in these applications here. Performance, connectivity, adaptability, and monitoring. Here's 14 points to consider when you're designing a system. Won't read through all these again for sake of time, but essentially battery power always comes up. What do you do when the power goes out? How does it work? What happens if what's the default mode of your valve? It's a question I always get. What's the default mode? Is it automatic close? Is it automatic open? What does it do? And water detection systems. So if let's say if the system is in alarm, so system goes into alarm, valve shuts off, and then power goes off. When power comes back on, it's good to know kind of your sequence of operation. When power comes back on, what happens? Well, if it's in alarm, we got non-volatile memory in there. It knows it was in alarm. It will not do anything. It requires manual intervention to turn back on. All right. Some of these devices have solenoid valves. You're using solenoid valves for leak protection. If that solenoid obviously is a normally open system and then it takes power to close it and you lose that power and that solenoid opens up, you've just exacerbated that leak, depending on what the kind of root cause of that is. So All these issues along here, pressure drops, a lot of these meters cause huge pressure drops in order to meet, certain type of specifications on here. Network security issues, how's it connected, wireless versus wired. Our company can do both there, but you see there on that architecture drawing right there, you basically got the valves up top and the flow meters. In the center, you got your controls, and in the bottom, you've got your interfaces to all the other peripheral devices. So interfaces to pumps, interfaces to commercial leak detection systems that can tell you how far down your 10,000-foot rope you actually have that water being detected. So 265 feet, 855 feet, those products, if you don't know, exist out there in the industry, and all the relays to cut the pumps off and tankless water heaters, whatever you have out there. Range of the RF or range of the hardwired, that's what you're looking for. And then bankability of the manufacturer. Number 14, that point number there. What's interesting is 80% of the business, we've been in the business for 20 years. 80% of the people in this business have been in the business less than 5 years. There's always new people coming in, and there's always new people going out every year. So look at the financials of that company that you're looking to specify. Again, some other reasons why we want to interface to the other long water using devices out there. Water filtration, humidifiers, those type of things. So we ask you through the process, what type of devices, what kind of mechanicals do you have in there? And then we'll accommodate for that. How is a good, well-managed system design? What a lot of people want is they want some on-site controls on it. And then if the cloud goes down or is not reliable, you want cloud applications to it. But in all cases, you want all the smarts and we call it distributed intelligence. You want it at the site location. You don't want to have to depend on, and a lot of companies do this. They take their outside of the pipe water bugs. They have to send it to the cloud, and the cloud has to analyze it. Where is it located? Where is it connected to? And then send it back down the cloud to turn off a valve. A good well-designed system, you want to have all that RF or all that connectivity to where all the decisions are made there on site, there in hand. Some other analytics that you've got there, I won't go over that there. Here's kind of some design for a dual pipe system, hot cold system. You want high torque, high pressure, field calibratable, all those issues. And then here's probably the most important thing, 8 ROI calcs to design in. So here again, you go to your customer and say, hey, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to protect against small undetected leaks there behind walls, risk mitigation, occupant productivity, insurance deductibles rise if you have too many claims. A lot of times these guys are going, we're not going to even cover you. So in order to maintain insurance, you have to install one of these things. So if you design it into the project to begin with, at least you give them the chance to say, you can lower your insurance rates. You can prevent tenant turnover. 80% of everybody that experiences a significant water leak does not renew the lease when the lease comes due. So that's a nice little stat to have there. Reduce overhead expenses, maximize loanable value, maximize tenant satisfaction. A couple of ROI real world examples here. The leak cost range for this, $100,000 to $1 million. System cost per condo, anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000, including installation, 20-story building. Total cost of this installation, on the low side, depending on how many condos you got, $40,000 to $250,000. ROI is 1 year if you avoid one leak. If your deductible is $250, obviously it's one event. And that's typically on these systems, they get $250,000 to $500,000. A lot of the universities have $1 million policy that they have to exceed before they file a claim. One incident, if you lost your water coverage, 3 to 5 years on reduced insurance costs. So a lot of these values that you can go in on ROI and sort of figure this out. This application right here, they were having one incident every 2 months. They're filing claims every 2 months. They installed the system, and to date, simple, 6 month to 1 year ROI on it, and they haven't any claims to date. So these systems work. This was covering a penthouse application right here. So they had some leaks in their hot water and boilers. Says my internet connection's unstable, but I'm assuming you can still hear me, Zach?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was yours or mine. Kind of cut out there on the end, just at the ROI portion there. I think, but I was reading on the screen, 90-day ROI is pretty wild, you know. And is that due to like an outlier event that, you know, happened within the 90 days and that paid it off, or is that just cutting down the regular everyday leaks that they were having?
Yeah, so essentially, if you've got, again, like I said before, what was happening on this particular project was a lot of their PRV closets were having leaks in them. A lot of the mechanicals were having leaks in them. Building was 16 years old. That's typically kind of when you see a lot of these maintenance issues come up. If it's even it's good installation, good copper, good techniques. But when you say 90 days, I mean they were having these problems routinely. And so even at this, one here, they're having every 2 months. So essentially, when you look at and you divide your total cost of insurance and you add the claim rate on top of that, you can see you spend this kind of a money. If you save one or two claims on here, divide that by a year, it's quick. It's really quick. So, and I think I said this, I didn't remember, but yeah, I said this on the old pipes. So if you have old pipes building 20, 30, 50, 75 years old, and they've got a bid to, replace all your pipes for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. It's like, hey, I don't have any money in the budget. HOA, I'm going to have to, put them an extra cost on there to get that money in the budget, or I'm going to have to pull a loan out to do that. Install a leak detection system to give you that notification early on until you can have the budget to do that. So a lot of different ROI calculations that you can use to go in there and make that argument to your end user.
Yeah, the insurance is a massive thing, and anytime there is a claim, like that's always going to be the large, like you said, uh once you have the first claim, all of a sudden it's going to be take over a lot more priority.
Yeah, no doubt.
I've stolen the screen sharing here, so don't mind that. I just wanted to, will allow you to kind of keep an eye on any questions that may come in, but I did want to take a couple of minutes here, and feel free to interrupt me if we do get questions coming in that we want to highlight. But for all those on the call, thanks for sticking around and paying attention. Hopefully you learned a lot about leak detection. We also want to show you how you can actually take the products that we talked about today and build it into your projects on Spec Tool. Again, if you're unfamiliar with Spec Tool, it's a product selection software, ATSspec.com. It's free for engineers, architects, interior designers, and paid for by our lovely supporting manufacturers like Watts, Leak Defense, all the Watts family of brands, among other manufacturers, which you can see scrolling at the bottom here. It is assigned to your individual login. You're going to have a shared account across your firm. So if you are an engineering firm that has multiple offices all across Canada, you can share your masters virtually on the system. You can tag in others from different regions into the same projects on within or without your office. And you have a lot of live updated information that's available. Before you even log in, though, on the home screen here, you'll see this Architects and Engineering tab. Here you can access our templates, which is our recommendations for product selection based on application. So, for example, office buildings will have a office A level, B level, C level, following the international design standards, and recommending products appropriate to that level. Of course, we have available products here where you can go take a look at the building product manufacturers that currently sponsor the system. And then the Learning Hub, which is one of my most recommended areas, you can go to our webinar recordings, which is going to give you access to all the previously recorded sessions that we've done. So if you have questions on, sizing your submersible pump, water heater selection based on applications, we've done a couple of these leak defenses systems before. We introduced the new antimicrobial coating on the automatic control valves and backflows that Watts launched last year. So any information on the manufacturer's new products, new features available there. and then also our knowledge base, which provides building code breakdowns so that you can see the difference between, say, the new British Columbia building code versus the Ontario building code. And all of that's available there before you even log in. Once you're within the system, you will see you'll tell you you're logged in as, you can access your various teams from various offices. Obviously, toolbar here on the left that goes over the projects, masters, templates, quick specs. An important button, always the help center and report an issue. Of course, also the request a build. If you click on the request a build, you can actually upload your plans directly into the system. Provide us some of the information that you might need. If you have a takeoff, you can upload your plans. Our spec team will do a takeoff and build a selection for you. You can let us know what you need the information back in. And of course, let us know when you need it by. And our team will build that and send it out to you. So if you ever run out of time or can't quite get started on the system, please feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help, happy to either provide training or do a build for you. I personally love to live within what we call the quick actions toolbar here. This is where you can start your projects, quick specs, and masters. So basically within ATS, you're going to start creating a folder, and those folders have different levels of detail. Something as simple as a quick spec will only have a title. We can do, say, a quick backflow. We were talking during the presentation about backflow preventers that have the Sentry Alert system built into it. So I can find my backflow preventer category. I'll jump back there if I went too quick. So here's all the different categories. You can see I've pinned some of my favorite ones. I've pinned all the leak detectors here, or PTAC units, pumps, water heaters, piping, everything that you could possibly imagine. We're adding more and more manufacturers. Every couple of weeks, it seems, we're launching a new manufacturer. In fact, we've got another new one that's signing up and joining the system at the start of next month. So excited to launch that. There'll be a little tease for future presentations. Here you can go through, we can find that LF 909 -FS now. If you're unfamiliar with the model number update and change, they added the -FS, which is, I believe, your flow safe. And if you want more information on the product, all the manufacturer spec sheets are embedded here. Pop open, tell you what the -FS and the flood detection sensor kit that comes with it. Of course, you can then customize it. As I mentioned before, you're actually selecting the options. Although you can see we do have unsized for some options. So if this is going towards a master, like I mentioned, the master folders, then you might want an unsized version. Whereas if this is for a particular project or a particular selection, you might want to go through and actually select your line sizes. It's going to update your model number, update your list price, and you can start adding that product to your system. I'm going to jump back to dashboard here. So that was our quick spec. And then, of course, rising in detail, we have a project. Projects are going to have location. They're going to have application. And the reason we select that is so that our system can start recommending the appropriate products based on the building class that you select, as well as the location you select. We'll start applying the appropriate building code. And then lastly, with the bid date, we're going to help you keep it up to date. So for example, this demo project that I started earlier, I'm going to go over to my projects tab. And I'm going to go into the leak defense webinar. And you can see from the basic info, I've selected the tender date, the bid date as tomorrow, March 20th. I've got an office building. It's located in Toronto. So I'm going to get the barrier-free building code. I'm going to get recommendations for an office. And I'll show you some of the other features that tie to the building type as well. And it's going to stay up and date until tomorrow. So if tonight he tells me, hey, Zach, we've actually updated our entire model number system. And what was a CT4 or let's do something simple. The POLD is now called, LPD. We would update your project, send you a notification. Hey, there's been a change to this product. We recommend this new selection. If it's been discontinued, we might say, hey, your leak defense webinar project created on March 19th has an out-of-date product. Click this link to book some time with Zach. He's going to walk you through a new updated selection, or here's our recommendation as an alternate. So we are constantly keeping up to date our products. And that's why if you have a master on our system, your masters are going to be up to date as well. So the difference of the master, obviously you have repeat work, whether this is your entire firm's standard master for pipes, specialties, backflow, leak detectors. We've done a number of masters where they've needed to add a leak detector product selection for when they have projects with leak detection. Having that here will ensure everyone's working off the same approved product, the same updated product info, and then can simply drag and drop it into the system. So I'm going to show you that really quick. I'm going to add drawings from masters and templates. So here we've got a branded hotel master, and this could be your firm's master. This could be your bank chains master with the approved product selections. And if we go to our mechanical room and equipment, we've got the approved leak defense system. Maybe we need a backflow and a sump pump and a PRV as well. We can just check those boxes. Let's drag a water heater at the same time, and we'll just drag and drop them into our project selection. Now, obviously, that's not going to cover 100% of the time, but you can see how easy it is to get those products from your master into your individual project. Simple drag and drop, and then you can edit a model to, say, refine the line size. If we want to take this from an unsized backflow into a 4-inch backflow, we could do so. And then, of course, you can see I've got the leak detection system here, and it's not just one product. This is I think it's a 4-tier, 5-tier, and let's show you how you can do that. So again, I'm going to go to this Add Drawing button. I'm going to go to Create New Drawing. I'm going to go to my pinned leak defense system. And from here, you can start going through those different levels that we talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want the RT4 or the CT4, Keith?
So let's see, CT4.
Yeah, we'll just do a CT4. Tells us this for commercial applications. We've got inside and outside the pipe containment. We've got a tier 4 hybrid of previous systems, et cetera, giving us some of the details. If there was an option, we would select it. This is going to build up what we call the product chain. So now we're selecting our shutoff valve. Here we can, of course, select our pipe size. If we want a 2-inch pipe with the standard wireless. If we want to adjust this to hardwired with controller option, again, it's updating our model number as we go. Of course, if this is for a master, we might want to go unsized. And now we've got an LDS 3H because of the hardwire controller selection, and we can revise that down to the standard. Again, if you want more detail, hit the spec sheet button, or we're going to hit Add Product. And then it's going to continue to build out. Now we've got an additional category. We've got select some sensors. Let's go with the POLD sensor here. We'll also see this option to select most popular come up. So here's a 5-inch wall power. That's the most commonly selected unit. We can reset this if we want the basic battery powered. Let's do another 5-foot rope, add product. And then it's going to take us through. We've got a check valve coming up that we need to select. We've got that control panel that we reviewed. So we can go CLDS. I'm just going to buzz through the fastest options here at the top because I see I got long in the tooth in my intro and my talk about masters and everything that has me so excited with all those features. So now I've got to buzz through the rest of this. I apologize for getting a little distracted. You can see how easy it is to go through, find the products that are appropriate, systems recommending the right ones at the top. Of course, we've got different options there for those ACVs. And then when we're done, we can hit complete. And we've gone through. So now we've shown the hard way of walking through that selection system on our own. We've shown the easy way of using our masters and templates, where if you have your own firm's masters, you can have this built up. You have the ATS templates, which is our recommendations based on application. You know, see, I did a dog wash facility the other day, where if you need help with getting your first dog wash, you could drag and drop over and pop that in. So that's really one of the key new features of our masters is, you know, the drag and drop option. Now I'm going to select our leak defense system, and then I can generate the spec docs for this. Now I can simply download our schedules, long spec, short spec, CSI 3-part spec, Revit, manufacturer spec sheet, even a product brochure. We can get as much information as we want. Submittal is going to be like a PDF version of a manufacturer spec sheet, but again, you're getting the updated model name and number. Schedule is going to give you an Excel document that could be copied and put into your CAD. Long, short, and CSI are different types of word specs. You can see you downloaded all that relatively quick here. I'm sure if you are working in Revit, you're familiar with Revit. It's a 3D design program. And then the manufacturer's spec sheet is going to provide you the actual manufacturer's cuts for everything selected in your project or with the singular product. So I'll show the CSI 3-part spec here. This is a more common format in the US, 3-part spec though. I really love it for the leak defense system. Gives a nice clean product detail page. We've got all the details you need in terms of what the product is. You've got your basis of design. You can add in your approved alternates, and we've even got a new alternates feature launching on the site too. All the different details you could possibly need. Of course, everything's open and editable, and you could just copy and paste this directly into your project documentation. Hit Control C, hit Control V, and pop it over. Go back here. I'll show the submittal format as well. Those are two of the more popular formats. Really, the word spec is going to come down to what level of detail you like to use. So I recommend looking at both the short, long, and CSI. And then often it's great to have the submittal sheet, as again, it's going to give you the updated model name and number, the details of it, and be really handy for review with your clients. So then they could come in and say, you know, maybe they want to red pen this and tell you, no, we don't want the POLD, we want the wire cabling, and we need to change this ACV from a 1-inch to a 2-inch, whatever it is. They can red pen mark this up, and you can simply pop back over to the spec system, go back to your project, and revise that product selection by hitting the little pencil button. Now, we won't spend too much time there. I'm just going to kind of slow it down here, wrap it up. Thank you very much for staying along with us. I somehow managed, even when you gave me lots of time, I still managed to go long. So I guess maybe I have too much confidence in myself to shorten it. I think when I have more time, I get more distracted by all the features that are available on the spec tool now. And I just kind of wind my way through and still end up 5 minutes over. So I apologize. Thank you for giving me the extra time. If you have questions on leak defense, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll set you up with Keith. We can jump on a joint call. If you need help getting a master set up on the spec tool, or if you want leak defense added to your master on the spec tool, myself, Mo, Mel, Susan, any of our spec team, we're all happy to jump on a call with you. We'll update your masters, and we'll even do additional training, show you how you can use that in your day-to-day. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us again. We will have the CPD hour certificates sent out on Friday. And Keith, do we send you the list and you'll be updating, like, do you have to, is it a self-report thing or do you need a list?
Self-report thing. I typically turn it to my marketing people and they'll put the stuff out there. So if you need anything that didn't work, yeah, email out to me and we'll get you taken care of.
Perfect. Reach out to us. We'll be happy to take care of you. Thank you very much for your time again. I learned something again. We've done the same presentation, I think 3 or 4 times now in the last 18 months, and I've learned something every time. So I appreciate you jumping on and sharing your insights.
Glad to do it. Yeah, appreciate all you guys staying on. Yeah, look like a good team today.
Have a great rest of the day, y'all. We'll see you next week for toilet seat training. Are you going to come join us next week for Toilet Week?
Looks great. I'd put that on my calendar.
All right. Have a great day, Raul. Bye for now.
Take care.